with that being said, let us get into, and I will say this really quick before we get into power rankings. My step ladder, my step ladder. I'm trying to think of names, guys. I'm experimenting right now. Deal with it. I do have a bias towards one team specifically, because I'm going to sound like a hypocrite if you listened earlier in the episode. But I do have a bias for one team specifically. No, it is not the Broncos. So, stepping up our step ladder here to begin at number 10, I have not given this team a lot of credit because I have thought this was more of a coaching / early season schedule success. I wanted to put the Bears there. I do think the Bears are close, but I think the Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels have been just slightly better. I think the Bears right now are sitting at 11-12. Look, their schedule as far as the defenses they played have been easier than not, but you can't take away the way Jaden Daniels is performing, the way Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury especially has just totally renovated. Like, this is the most renovated football team in recent memory. New ownership, new GM. Remember, we talked about in the offseason. I liked a lot of what they did because normally huge turnover would not be a thing that I would like, but considering they ripped out so much, clearly awful. And even if they only replaced it with good, do you know the difference between truly awful and good? It's a lot. And that's why Washington, who's been a laughingstock, is now a top 10 football team in my opinion. And again, these are not just my top 10 for, like, to quote-unquote snapshot a part of the season and go, look, this is who was great in week 3. This is great in week 5. These are genuinely the teams that I think are going to be in this conversation. And I think 10 through 14, I'm still sitting around on just the outside of this. The Bears, I think, are right on the outside of this. The Broncos, I still believe, are on the outside of this. The Falcons, I believe, are on the outside of this. So these are genuinely the teams I not only believe in now, but I believe in going forward, as well as these bottom 5 teams, similar to what I said last week, I just don't think can win the Super Bowl, but I do think they are the most exciting stories of the season. And that's and number 9 being the Green Bay Packers. What else can you say about Matt LaFleur, man? What he did, Malik Willis, keeping this team afloat, getting the 2 wins with him. Jordan Love came back. Jordan Love finally looked like himself yesterday. The game last week, we just don't, you make people forget. This is a tip to Levis. You make people forget that you made maybe one of the worst throws of all time, like Jordan Love did 2 weeks ago. You throw 4 touchdowns in your next game. Really easy way to make people forget. This team is extremely well coached, really talented. They are super young, and again, I don't think any of these teams here have the potential to win a Super Bowl, but that does not disqualify them from being one of the 10 best teams in the NFL. I just don't think they have quite the roster or overall talent or quarterback as the teams that are in the top 5. And number 8, and I'm probably underrating this, has anyone watched the Bucs? Like, they just put up 50 against the Saints. Baker Mayfield is, again, September MVP is stupid, but he is playing like an MVP level-esque player. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, this defense is and that makes me a little concerned about him, but they do have names. Antoine Winfield, when he comes back healthy. Like, this is a 4-2 football team that a lot of people could argue could be 5-1, and they went in and handed Detroit, one of the best teams in the NFL, their only loss at home. Like, this might honestly be too low, but I have a little bit of Baker Mayfield bias. This isn't the team I was talking about, but I have a little bit of Baker Mayfield bias where I'm like, I think he is a really good quarterback. I'm just not willing to put him in the great category. I don't care if the Vikings are 5-0. This is a 1,000% to me. This is a coaching story. This is Kevin O'Connell. This is Brian Flores. This is a really cool story for Sam Darnold, but it's still Sam Darnold. And I'm just not willing to put them much higher than this because I think the 7th best team in the NFL is probably your cap with Sam Darnold. Now, that's still incredible. Everything they've done to Minnesota this year has been absolutely, without question, incredible. But it's Sam Darnold, and I'm not willing to put him above these other teams. This one I was worried about. This is at number 6, the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, again, I just feel like he's figured it out. 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's not a matter of, will he throw interceptions? Yes, obviously. But he's just figured it out. Something about him, it just feels like he's figured it out at the quarterback position. And now, with the addition of Amari Cooper, a real number 1 wide receiver, I think you're going to see more plays out of this offense, more big plays, more explosive plays. And again, I just feel like he's figured it out. And you can say what you want. Oh, well, he loses to Mahomes. Everybody does. But this feels like if there was ever a year he was going to beat Mahomes, this feels like it's the year. And number 4, this is the bias team. I'm sorry, number 5. This is my bias team. I just can't tell myself that when I watch the San Francisco 49ers, despite everything I said earlier in the show, I just can't convince myself they're not one of the best teams in football, especially when you see like Ayuk, who's eventually going to get there. Again, Jennings is a receiver number 3, Debo. Like, this is all without Christian McCaffrey too. And so I just can't, again, maybe I'll be wrong on this by the time the season's over, but I just don't have it in me to look at the San Francisco 49ers and say they're not one of the 5 best teams in the National Football League. At number 4, I've been on Houston since early last year. Go back all the way to our preview show, Tony and I did. Now, I didn't expect them to be as good as they were this fast, but I liked a lot of the pieces Houston had for a very long time. I liked D'Amico Ryan. C.J. Stroud is amazing. The Nico Collins injury hurts, but Joe Mixon able to run the football. This team just feels like they do so much right. This is honestly, now they're cooler than them, but it feels like a lot of the early New England Patriots teams. Defensive head coach, star quarterback. You have a receiver here. You've got a defense that just makes plays. This is probably my most liked team in the NFL outside of the team I root for. Man, this was hard not to put the Lions at number 2. The Lions they went into Dallas, smacked Dallas, which that was easily the most impressive. They had offensive linemen running X position wide receiver against the Cowboys. They clearly showed they are the class of the NFC. They're the best team in the NFC. Their roster to me feels like San Francisco, but they're just younger. Who knows if they'll be able to keep it together the same way San Francisco did. But this roster has stars everywhere. Yes, the Aiden Hutchinson injury is genuinely devastating, not just because of the way that it looked, but he is a lot of this defense. He is leading the league in pressures by a mile. This defense still is yet to play top 5, top 4 level. But the defense, without Hutchinson, I still think will be good enough, and their offense is amazing. Offensive line, defensive line, what can you say about it? Dan Campbell, culture setter. And again, they just smacked the Cowboys, the best win of the weekend. But I also think a lot of that is that Dallas just isn't that good. Dallas has been giving up over 40 points a game at home. And so Detroit to be they didn't do anything original, which I think takes away some of the sting from it. The Ravens, man, look. Lamar, Derrick Henry, they are out rushing teams by 150 yards a game. Teams don't even run for 150 yards a game. They are outrunning other teams by 150 yards a game. They just feel you have to get up on this team and you have to blow them out immediately, which is hard to do. Because if that game is close, Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, they just keep running the ball. Henry's just physical as hell. Guys are going to make big decisions on tackling him. I don't blame him. 6'2", 230, running downhill. Lamar playing at an MV3-esque level. Like, if this is one of those teams you're going to look back on, and if there wasn't a current dynasty in the NFL, you would say, oh, obviously, they're the best team in the National Football League. But number 1, and again, I said this last week, they deserve it right now. The way they've played against the Saints on Monday night, that was their showcasing of an A game coming out of a bye week. And now that they're out of the bye week and they're about to play the San Francisco 49ers, this is the worst week for the 49ers to get them. Andy Reid's record, we've all seen it, coming out of a bye week. He's got 2 weeks to prepare. I think the Chiefs are going to look, if there was ever a week they were going to look great, this is the week. Especially coming off the week they did look great against the Saints. Again, I don't think the Saints are that great, but 400-plus yards of total offense, almost 500. And I think coming out against the 49ers, who the last time they played them in the regular season, Mahomes lit them up. Andy Reid coming off a bye. This is the current dynasty in the NFL. It's hard not to put them at number 1. And that is our step ladder for week 6. Week 7. Yeah, week 6. Yeah, week 6. We're here.